guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is The Thriller from Mexico. This is spoken in the Spanish and a little bit of English language with English subtitles. Released in 2015, directed by Jonas Cuarón, and this film is called Desierto. So Desierto is about these illegal Mexican immigrants that are travelling in a truck. They want to get from Mexico over the border to the USA. So this main character, he has a teddy bear. That teddy bear belongs to his son who lives in the United States, and he always promised to his son that he was going to return it back to him because he has been deported and now he is absolutely desperate to get back there. So all of these immigrants, they are very desperate, but they're doing things in the wrong way. So through the desert, they're travelling, a very barren landscape, their truck breaks down. So the guy who's running this little racket basically tells them they're going to have to take the journey on foot. Now it's a very dangerous journey. If they run out of water, they're basically lambs to the slaughter. This whole environment's going to engulf them. So they're embarking on this perilous journey that takes 2 days. But what makes it even more dangerous is that there is a psychotic patriot from the United States who is picking off these illegal immigrants with a rifle and his trusty dog named Tracker. Now these Tracker and his owner, they are basically ruthless in what they're doing. They're trying to protect the United States. He's saying that this is his home, that he's going to protect it from these illegals, and that he's going to do anything possible in order to prevent them from getting over into the United States. So whether or not this main character can outlast this opponent and at the same time get back to his family in Oakland is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Desierto. This movie really appealed to me for more than one reason. And number one, Jonas Cuarón was the director. Now his brother Alfonso is very well known and recognised for films such as Children of Men, which is one of my favourite films of all time, and also recently Gravity. So this is a guy that really banks himself on his visuals. He can really strike you with the visuals, and it plays a strong sense in his films. So I was wondering what his brother Jonas could deliver. And so this is my first film from Jonas Cuarón, so I did have high hopes, but at the same time I was willing to give it every opportunity and not basically compare this film to Alfonso, because that is very unfair, because Alfonso Cuarón is indeed one hell of a filmmaker. And then the other reason is because, especially in the United States these days with Donald Trump being elected, it is that tense sort of thought of immigrants from Mexico. And so I think that movie does play a political part. Although the movie isn't political, it's a straight out thriller, I still think it's going to get a lot of people discussing that very tense subject of the Mexican immigrants, and in this case illegal immigrants. And unfortunately there are a lot of illegal immigrants in the United States, but now it's just come to the front because of Donald Trump's views. So whether or not you like Donald Trump or not, I'm not getting into politics, but I'm just saying that that is another reason why it's going to really capture the audience, is because it does depict that very tense sort of subject that a lot of people are very divided upon. So after seeing the film, I will say that Jonas Cuarón really does have the reminiscent qualities of Alfonso, in that he is bringing this film to life. He's using the overall setting of the film, which is the desert, to its full advantage, because you've got some absolutely beautiful panning shots, but at the same time he demonstrates how unforgiving this landscape is that if you run out of water, you're going to basically die of thirst, and that it can be very draining, very exhausting of what these immigrants are doing. And I think that Jonas Cuarón does a great job at actually putting you into the mindset of these immigrants. You can actually feel their tide, their fatigue. You can feel their fatigue, you can feel all the troubles that they're going through, and you can actually sense a little bit of sympathy for them, is because their situation in Mexico was absolutely horrific, and you sense that they're trying desperately to get to a better life. And I think everybody deserves a better life, but doing it illegally is always a bad thing. But sometimes these immigrants are faced with no other possibilities. So it really does put you in an awkward position, is that one, you want these people to get to their safety, but at the same time they're doing it illegally, and that there are other millions of immigrants that want to do it legally who actually find it very difficult. So it really does have you in two minds, and I think this movie will actually bring that discussion forward. So the acting from Gael Garcia Bernal, who is a very well-known actor, he actually does a great job as this main character. And I also really like the villain in this film. The villain was actually a little bit more dimensional than I thought he would be. Now, it is a very simplistic film, and I thought that the killer was actually a little bit more in depth than I was anticipating. I thought that this is going to be a Wolf Creek type of film, where this outback guy is hunting these victims and in very barbaric ways, and he actually does that. But there were some very strange circumstances when he picks off a victim, and you can sense that maybe he doesn't like what he's doing. He's not really getting satisfaction, and so it begs the question who this guy is. What is he all about? And so I thought that for a villain in this type of film, you don't really get that often. So I think Jonas Cuarón does a good job at actually gaining a little bit of sympathy for this killer, is that you think that, you know, there are moments in his past that have affected him to become the person that he is. And he has a really vicious dog, but you can actually sense that connection between the owner and dog. And it's the basic age-old saying of, you know, dog's the man's best friend. And you can actually sense that chemistry between the two of them. So it's very strange in that it's giving you a very powerful experience in a very realistic way, is that these characters, although this guy is doing a bad thing, and although these immigrants are doing a bad thing by coming illegally, you still get a bit of sympathetic quality to them. So it does give you a little bit of complexity to the issue, and you're not necessarily feeling great how the film, you know, the outcome of the film. You feel that although, you know, one side is going to win this battle, you still think that there's a certain sense of discomfort, a certain sense of not being satisfied as you would if it was a stereotypical kind of film. So the cinematography, as I said, is absolutely beautiful. It is amazing. It is very reminiscent of the works of Alfonso Cuarón, especially Gravity, in that it's showing you the beauty of outer space, but at the same time the dangers. And in this movie, it's showing you the beauty of the desert, some just absolutely panning landscapes, but also showing you the devastation and how unforgiving this landscape can be. So the cinematography really does project the film through the screen, and it engulfs the viewer. You've also got a lot of suspense in this film. It is definitely a cat and mouse type of movie, and there is nothing in the way to basically convolute what it wants to do. So there's no side elements where you think, okay, it's kind of indulging itself in unnecessary quality. Basically what you get is a simple cat and mouse film, and it knows that. And it doesn't bog itself down in giving you side stories of these characters. It gives you enough to really sympathise with the cause. So the overall pacing of the film I thought was very well done. There are some very brutal scenes of violence, which I thought were quite realistic. It's not gratuitous, it doesn't glorify the violence, but it does show you that, once again, that harsh reality. So I really like that. Unfortunately, though, although the movie it is very powerful and it does show you some very realistic characters, unfortunately in the last third of the film it becomes very generic and unfortunately very, very predictable. And then all of a sudden you've got the thriller tropes that come into play. For example, this guy is an absolute marksman with the gun. He can shoot people from a long way away, but when it comes time to actually get the main character, he forgets how to shoot. And so you've got all those elements that really don't take the realism out of the equation, and then it becomes very predictable, and you think to yourself that the movie desperately needed a better third quarter, is because it pans down a way where you think, okay, at the start of the film I've got this simplistic idea, very simplistic idea that allows you to enjoy it, and it's actually very realistic and it makes you think, but then in the last quarter of the film it starts to go down that path where you've seen them all before, so you know exactly who's going to survive, you know who's going to lose, and unfortunately that kind of contradicts everything that the film has going for it. So it's not a massive criticism, but I will say that the movie, it does become very generic, very predictable, and in that case, because you know how it's going to finish, because it has such a different mood in the first three quarters, it's just a little bit disjointed, and you feel that the movie really needed a better finish to make it an absolute fantastic film. But having said that, if you are a fan of Alfonso Cuarón and the way that he makes his movies, then his brother Jonas Cuarón has delivered something very, very interesting in Desierto. It's going to make you think, it's going to allow you to enjoy what's going on. Very hard-hitting, very high impact in its violence, but also quite powerful in the message and the characters that it depicts. So overall for Desierto, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.